Hello, hello, and welcome back to Temptations Ballad. We're going to the Market District. I I don't know what to think of this game still. It's fun so far. There's lots of things. I like Morrow a lot. Was that his name? Morrow? Yeah, he's cool. Sparrow's Inn and Tavern. Okay. Meanwhile, across the city at an unusual function, an actual functioning tavern, a young badger slumped his slumped his way home with very heavy shoulders and an even heavier heart. Okay, Sid Shrikewood's face was grim as he stumbled home to the tavern that his mother ran. I'm gonna turn that down just a little bit. Returning home empty-handed yet again. And this time, he returned bright and early in the morning. The day had barely begun, with cool morning dew settling on the wet grass below. Sid approached the steps of Sparrow's Roost Inn and Tavern, his eyes lit up at the sight of a familiar face waiting for him. Hey, Bestie! How's... Betsy? Betsy? Okay, how's business at the tavern going today? Hope the customers have been treating you well. Sid sighed and plopped down at a large stone next to his longtime friend. As for me, well, the morning just started and it's already a shit day. He buried his face in his hands. Got kicked out of my scribe apprenticeship. Third day on the job. That's gotta be a new record. Mom's gonna kill me at this rate. What am I supposed to tell her? Sid shook his head and grabbed a nearby broom, lying next to the Sparrow's Roost Inn's entrance. He absent-mindedly began sweeping the dirt and grime off the tavern steps. Rhythmic chords always help him clear away dreadful thoughts. The chores also helped relieve some extra work from his mother's already massive workload, which was always a plus. Sid's mother was always working, bustling about in the tavern and serving customers day and night. His heart lurched painfully in his chest when he returned home every night to see her slumped over a chair in exhaustion. Her hands had grown coarse with calluses, and she has complained of her back pains as of late. Naturally, Sid often showed up at the Sparrow's Roost Inn and Tavern to help out whenever he could. Usually because he got kicked out of yet another apprenticeship job. Sid sighed and paused his sweeping to look down at Betsy. She silently stared back at him, even the good listener. Hey, Betsy. This is like the 5th apprenticeship I got fired from. I really want to make Mom happy and get a cushy job, but none of this feels right to me, you know? An amused chuckle left Sid's throat as he tried to imagine himself as a scribe. Me, cooped up in a cushy commoner job. I mean, I'm a commoner through and through, and I always dreamed of being something bigger, you know. Sid twirled his broom with practiced swing, slashing it at the air enthusiastically, as though it were a sword. Now, Sid the Adventurer, that rolls off the tongue way better. Getting out into the world to perform heroic deeds, amassing glory, and saving the day like the champions in storybooks. What do you think, Betsy? Okay. Betsy, as usual, did not answer for the simple fact that she was a toad. Ever the good listener, she continued staring up at Sid with deep, understanding eyes as she perched on her usual basking rock. Right, I'd make a fantastic adventurer. Bards will sing of my legends one day, just you watch. Sid swung his broom sword in the air with wild and brash sweeps. He imagined fending off an invisible foe as he jabbed and thrusted his heroic weapon to and fro. Here, take that! Swoops! His foot suddenly slipped on wet cobblestone, and he tumbled forward with a grace of a damp log. As Sid tumbled, he lost his grip on his very heroic broomsword and yelped as it soared into the air. Right as the tavern door creaked open. Sid, dear, are you... Ouch! Sid's mother winced as the flying broom landed handle smacked her right between the eyes. Mom! Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. He rushed to his mom's side as she gingerly rubbed her bruised forehead. Ilya looked at her son with an exasperated yet fond smile as she pinched his cheeks. It's quite all right, dear. Your mother is made of tougher stuff than this. Were you pretending to be a sword fighter with the broom again? Because the windows were open and the whole tavern could hear and see you. What? They saw? Sid's ears flattened against his head as he flushed pink. That was a private conversation. With your toad. Ilya glanced down at Betsy, doubtfully. Excuse you. Betsy is a noble toad and a good friend. Sid watched as his mother sighed deeply and buried her face in her hands. It looked like she was doing her best to keep a straight face and avoid chuckling. Or crying. Sid couldn't tell at this point. Oh, sweetheart. I heard your, conversation earlier. Were you fired from your apprenticeship again? Sid's shoulders slumped as he stared anywhere but his mother's prying eyes. Well, fired is a strong word. I prefer the term gently let go. Of course, dear. He felt a gentle sweep of his arm as Sid glanced down. His mother looked so tiny in comparison. The scribe, the blacksmith, even the wood furnishers. You've been let go from practically every apprenticeship job in our neighborhood. Sweetheart, I may not be as charismatic as your frog friend, but please don't be afraid to speak to me if something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Well, kinda. Guilt started creeping through his chest. They've been through this conversation countless times. I just can't get into any of these ordinary jobs. The thought of getting stuck indoors as a scribe for the rest of my life seems miserable. I want to go out there and see the world. Don't you want your son to succeed as a great and glorious adventurer? I know I have it in me to be somebody instead of another commoner out in the market district. Somebody great. Ilya's grip on his arm tightened as worried trepidation filled her face. Oh, Sid, I know this is difficult, but the reason your father and I work ourselves to the bone day in and day out is because we hope to create a better future for you. We work so hard because we hope you don't have to. I want you to be happy as well, but many adventurers often don't return home. The thought of you going out into the world alone. Ilya snapped her beak shut, shivering. Oh, Mom, don't worry. I'm the toughest cookie around. Are you really never going to let me be an adventurer? Ever? The Adventurers Guild is just a short walk away in the Marauders District. It's so close I can practically taste it. Well, I suppose. Yes. Is that a yes? No. Ilya sighed as Sid emotionally deflated like a trampled balloon. Oh, don't give me those sad puppy eyes. Your father and I had a long talk this morning, and we came to a decision. She took a deep breath. If you're going to go out doing wildly dangerous adventuring jobs, it will be a great comfort to your father and I if you had trusted friends by your side. If you had a few dependable friends to form an adventuring party with, I suppose you can go talk to the Adventuring Guild. Sid perked up, then immediately groaned. Bold of you to assume I have friends in Okay. People always laugh at me. Well, perhaps if you stopped talking to your frog all the time. Betsy is a toad. Ilya sighed with a deflated smile and patted her son on the shoulder. This was impressive considering she had barely reached it, even when standing on her tiptoes. All right, dear. Why don't you go out here, get out of here while the day is still young. Go mingle with about the Marauders District, and see if you can make any friends. Oh, and before I forget, I packed you some snacks in case you get hungry later. Be sure to share them with your friends if you make any later today. Oh, wow, she says if, not when. I mean, I guess if is good, because it means it doesn't miss timing, unlike when effects. Does anyone else, when they build a deck in Yu-Gi-Oh!, when they see when written on a card, you immediately take it out of the deck? Because you don't want to deal with the headache of, like, whether or not you miss the timing during, like... like, if the effect can miss timing, you know? Like your Dupe Frog is, like, the only one sometimes I'll play, and that's only if I'm like, oh, yeah, we're gonna do it with frogs. Like, right? But, like, it's the whole reason why I don't like playing Yang Zings, even though, like, in theory, I should really like that archetype. But, yeah, the whole just... oh, you missed timing because the last thing that happened during the effect wasn't the destruction, it was the whatever thing, so your when effect doesn't work. If it said if, then it would be different. You know, it's like how I don't like Dark Worlds because of that. It's... I'm sorry. Sid stood, stunned, while his mother stuffed several wrapped sandwiches into his tiny pockets. Packets? Pockets. Wait, you're really giving me a chance? Thank you so much, Mom. I won't disappoint you. You never do. I love you, sweetheart. Sid was already prancing halfway down the street, practically vibrating with excitement. Love you too, Mom! Oh, and if you don't manage to find anyone for your adventuring party, your father is looking for an assistant at his cheese shop. And he's gone. Ilya clasped her hands together and tried to ignore the anxious knot tugging at her chest. She looked down at Betsy croaking happily on her rock. Oh, wise frog, what do you think? What are the chances my son comes back a wiser and more sensible young man? Ilya sighed. I thought so. Oh, okay. That was a little shorter than I thought. I thought it was going to be like a long introduction, like what we saw with, I already forgot, Cole? Whoops, you guys know my memory. It's, like, terrible unless it's about, like, combos in card games or RPG stat management. Like, any other time, my brain is like, no, you will never be able to commit that to memory. ever. Church district. Grand Cathedral. Ah, we're going to the Cathedral Ward. Ah, yes, yes. The Grand Cathedral stood coldly against the morning air, the sun's harsh rays reflecting off its bright walls like jagged knives. Most of the inhabitants at the Grand Cathedral had already left the main hall to perform their daily duties, save one. Oh, look at this lad! Okay. A lone knight stood solid in an empty corner of the hall, her sword and shield drawn ready at her side. Oh, okay. Her blade glinted off the morning sun in precise swings. Her stance and posture were was as picture perfect as they were rigid and anxious. Artemi? Temi. Okay. Yeah, resumed her daily training as a holy knight of the church, as she had done every day as far as she could remember. Her blade hand paused as cheerful voices echoed from one of the cathedral side entrances. Bishop Katrina? Oh my god, she's off the ban list, guys! You can play Katrina again. Neo Nectar is saved. Not really. Glided elegantly into the main hall with half a dozen church youths, following closely behind in a flock of ducklings. Like a flock of ducklings, she carried a commanding presence as she directed the youths to their duties. The floor of the hall the floors of the side halls will need a thorough sweeping, along with the entirety of the west wing staircase. Understood. The church youths mumbled, but nodded quietly. At the sight of the bishop, Artemi hastily sheathed her sword and bowed deeply. Bishop Katrina barely spared her a glance. A few of the church youths suddenly noticed her and stared. Hello? Artemi gave the small crowd a shy wave. Most of the youths sneered and scrunched their noses. Several whispered among each other with less than kind words. Artemi dropped her hand back to her side dejectedly. Why is she even here? All that little mutt ever does is pretend swing her sword around the cathedral all day while the rest of us do all the hard work. And she's not even a real knight. Talk about unfair. Bishop Katrina's heels clicked sharply on the cathedral stone floor as she turned towards them. Whispering is quite rude, children. The whole group bowed their heads apologetically. One of the bolder youths glared up defiantly. Apologies, Your Excellency. We were just a little curious. Yes, it appears many of you are ignorant of certain important topics. You all surely know of the creators chosen. Throughout history, our great creator has chosen champions worthy of her holy light to protect the church from evils of this world. It is prophesied that each chosen will play an important role in guiding the world from destruction. Our Artemi is one such chosen. On the night of her birth, they say a beam of celestial light descended from the heavens above and blessed Artemi with the Creator's holy strength. That is why she carried such powerful celestial magic within her veins. One day, when the Chosen reaches her full potential, she will be able to draw the Creator's holy blade from the pedestal and deliver the world from a terrible fate. Until that time comes, she is to continue training under the guidance of the church. A few of the church youths snicker to themselves as as they glance at Artemi standing awkwardly in the corner of the main hall. But Your Excellency, how does the curator choose her champions? Of all people, why was she chosen? Bishop Katrina either did not notice the disdain in the youth's voice or decided to ignore it. We simple mortals cannot hope to fathom the will and intent of our Creator. We can only have faith that she chose well. Now, enough idle chatter. Move along to your duties, all of you. The half-dozen youths nodded politely and scrambled out of the hall. A heavy silence descended upon the cathedral. Bishop Katrina turned towards the Artemi's corner of the room. Artemi gulped and straightened her posture. Good morning, Mother. Daughter. Artemi felt her mother regard her coldly. She could never tell whether she was pleased or disappointed by something. When it came to herself, it was usually the latter. You were late to your swordsmanship practice this morning, so I heard. Artemi winced and bowed her head. Yes, but only by a few minutes. That is no excuse. You are the chosen one. The world has higher expectations of you than that of a mere knight. My apologies, Your Excellency. I will do better next time. You say that so often, and yet... dread crept through Artemi's chest as her mother sighed and rubbed her temples. In any case, I saw that note you left at my door this morning. You wish to speak with me? Yes, Mother. Her heart thumped repeatedly against her chest. Artemi inhaled and tried desperately to steady her breathing. She never felt comfortable while speaking, especially to her mother. Your Excellency, I have been diligently training within the Grand Cathedral since I was a mere child to prepare for my role as the Chosen One, the Creator's Chosen. But throughout all these years, I have rarely the opportunity to leave the walls of the cathedral, and not once have I stepped outside the church district. I understand that the church feels this is the best for my safety, but with no experience of the outside world, I feel very ill-prepared for my duty. That is why Artemi nervously salutes and bowed. Your Excellency, I humbly request for a small task or mission outside of the church district. No. Bishop Katrina reply was immediate. Artemi flinched, completely taken aback. Huh? May I ask why? Artemi gulped as Bishop Katrina stepped close. She circled around her like a predator, wearing a cold, harsh glare. Look at you. You know what I see? Nothing but flaws. Wow! Horrible, a cowardly posture for a knight. You can barely even speak without falling apart like a nervous child. Why, merely minutes ago, I witnessed you being too intimidated to even strike a conversation with the church youths. Don't even get me started on your training. Bishop Katrina leaned forward until her face was just inches away. Artemi, from what I have seen, you are without a doubt the weakest chosen one throughout all of history. Her word pierced Artemi's chest like cold daggers, and the young knight took a deep breath in a futile effort to steady herself. Do you wish to take on a mission outside the church and become the laughingstock of the entire city? I don't think so. Stay in the church, continue your training, and do as you are told. lest you bring more embarrassment to the church and our family name, daughter. But... I must take on missions if I am to gain experience and improve. You are not even close to ready, and you know it. But... Are you going to continue such an uncough argument here, in public, right in the middle of the main hall? This is exactly why you are not fit to leave the cathedral yet. That's better. We simply want what's best for you, daughter. Oh ho ho! Is this a bad time? Oh, okay. Big. The two of them immediately glance up to see a large polar bear clad in high-ranking church armor approach them with a jolly grin. Artemi immediately saluted. Knight Commander Grank. Good morning to you, sir. Bishop Katrina simply gave the polar bear a polite nod. Grank? Okay. Laughed jovially, that's it, and patted Artemi on the shoulder.
It is a fine morning indeed. I hope I'm not interrupting anything of importance. Your Excellency, would it be alright if I borrowed dear Artemi for a few moments?
By all means. This was an unproductive conversation to begin with.
Excellent. Come along now, Artemi. We don't have all day.
Yes, sir. Okay, I think I'll end the part here, so I'll see you around, everyone.